Hey everyone, welcome back. Before we dive into today's unnerving story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're into chilling tales and real-life horror. Alright, get comfortable. Maybe turn on a light or two and let me take you back to a time when one of the most famous horror movies was more than just a movie. It was a nightmare come to life. I first heard about the true story behind The Exorcist during a late-night college gathering. The room was dimly lit, the air thick with smoke from cheap candles, and we were all trying to outscare each other with ghost stories. But when my friend Ben started talking, everything shifted. His voice was low, his face deadly serious. I leaned in closer as he began. Have you ever heard about the boy who inspired The Exorcist? Because I have, and it's worse than anything you could imagine. It was the late 1940s, Ben explained, and this boy, known only by the pseudonym Roland Doe, some stories used Robbie Mannheim, lived in Maryland. He wasn't unlike any other kid, quiet, a little shy, and deeply connected to his Aunt Harriet. She was a spiritualist and introduced him to the world of Ouija boards. When she passed away suddenly, Roland was devastated. And that's when the strange things began happening. It started small, almost unnoticeable. Scratching sounds from within the walls, like tiny claws scraping just out of sight. His parents assumed it was rats or mice, so they set traps, but they never caught anything. The scratching grew louder and more erratic, sometimes pounding so hard that their framed photos fell to the floor, glass shattering on impact. Then came the more terrifying signs. Roland's bed would shake violently at night, as if an invisible force was throwing a tantrum. Objects flew across the room with no one near them. Witnesses said they saw furniture move, books fly, and a heavy armchair slide across the room as if pushed by an unseen hand. The family was at their wits' end. When Roland started speaking in guttural voices, languages he'd never learned, and his body showed strange marks and welts, spelling out words like help and hell. They knew they needed help beyond what any doctor could provide. By now you've probably guessed what they did next, Ben said, leaning back and pausing for effect. They reached out to the church. The local priest, Father Hughes, conducted the first exorcism attempt. It didn't go well. In fact, it went so badly that Hughes left the room with a deep wound on his arm, inflicted by Roland himself when he managed to break free from his restraints. The family knew they needed someone more experienced. They were referred to Jesuit priests at Georgetown University, who sent Father William Bodern and his assistant, Father Walter Halloran, to take on the case. The two priests described the exorcisms that followed as relentless and brutal. Roland would writhe, scream, and spew vile insults in voices that weren't his own. His eyes would roll back until only the whites showed. The temperature in the room would drop so suddenly that their breath came out in visible puffs, despite it being the middle of spring. Father Halloran later said that during one session, he witnessed a shaking bed, slithering noises, and an unnatural guttural voice that made his skin crawl. The final exorcism lasted hours and pushed the priests to the limits of their faith and physical endurance. One of the most frightening moments, Ben said, was when Roland suddenly stopped convulsing, turned to the priests with eyes that were no longer his own, and said in a calm voice, "He is gone." At that moment, a loud crash sounded in the room, as if something heavy had been hurled. But there was nothing there, nothing visible that could have made such a noise. The boy slumped down, exhausted but free. The haunting had ended, but the room felt scarred, forever echoing with the chaos it had once held. Roland's case was hushed up quickly after that. The priests involved refused to talk for years, and Roland's real name was kept a secret to protect him and his family. But the story didn't fade, it just transformed. In 1971, writer William Peter Blatty, a student at Georgetown University who had heard whispers of the tale, wrote The Exorcist, a novel that would later become the iconic film. And that, my friends, is the story behind one of the most terrifying movies of all time, Ben concluded. The kind of story that makes you question how thin the veil really is between this world and whatever lies beyond it. So, what do you think? Would you have been able to witness what those priests saw? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more chilling stories. Until next time, stay safe and keep the lights on.